Beneath the shadow of the deep woods, unsolved disappearances remain a terrifying mystery. Welcome to Whispers in the Dark, where true stories send chills down your spine. Today, we'll explore 5 mysterious disappearances in haunted forests, where every trace leads deeper into fear. If you enjoy eerie and mysterious tales, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and leave a comment. Your support is the greatest motivation for us to keep creating more haunting and compelling videos. Now, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and step into the darkness with me. Story 1, The Shadow Beneath the Pines, The Vanishing of Paula Welden. Paula Jean Welden was a bright-eyed freshman at Bennington College, Vermont. Just 18, she had everything going for her: beauty, intellect, and a world of opportunity ahead. With soft blonde hair often tied back neatly, and vivid blue eyes that shimmered with wanderlust, Paula was the type of girl who turned heads without meaning to. She came from a privileged background. Her father, William Archibald Welden, was a respected engineer at Stanford's renowned design firm in Connecticut. Despite her sheltered upbringing, Paula was fiercely independent. She often spoke of wanting to explore the world on her own terms. Maybe that's what led her to step out on that cold December day in 1946, seeking solitude in the mountains. On Sunday, December 1st, snow had just begun to fall on the peaks of the Green Mountains. Paula left her dorm quietly in the early afternoon, wearing a red parka-style coat, jeans, and lightweight sneakers, clothing ill-suited for the frigid forest terrain. That would be the last day anyone ever saw her. Around 2:30 p.m., Paula left the Bennington campus without telling anyone where she was going. She hitchhiked with a passing driver, a local contractor who later said Paula seemed cheerful, curious about nature, and mentioned wanting to hike a section of the long trail, a famed hiking path that cuts through the dense Green Mountain National Forest. Several hikers reported seeing her along the trail, near Glastonbury Mountain. One elderly couple recalled walking behind her for a while. They watched her ascend a bend in the path ahead, and then, she was gone. No cry for help, no sign of struggle, just gone. When Paula didn't return to her dorm that evening, her roommate was immediately concerned. Paula had never stayed out overnight. By morning, word had spread, and campus authorities launched an informal search. By nightfall, panic had set in. Bennington College realized Paula Welden had vanished. The following days saw a massive manhunt unfold. Local police, state troopers, college staff, even U.S. Army soldiers were enlisted. Search dogs combed the woods. Planes flew overhead. Hundreds of volunteers tramped through frozen underbrush. Every inch of trail and forest around Glastonbury Mountain was scrutinized. But nothing turned up. Not a shoe. Not a shred of fabric. No footprints in the snow. It was as if the earth had swallowed her whole. People began whispering questions. Had she slipped into a ravine and frozen to death? Had someone abducted her? Had she planned to disappear? Theories multiplied, but so did the mystery. One unsettling fact emerged: the state of Vermont had no official state police at the time. The fragmented, ill-equipped local forces bungled early leads. Delays cost valuable hours. Crucial evidence may have been overlooked or never existed at all. As days turned into weeks, the theories grew darker. Small orange diamond: she got lost and died from exposure? Possible. She wasn't dressed for the cold, and the trail could be treacherous. But how could so many trained searchers fail to find a single sign? Even after months, no bones, no clothing, no trace. Small orange diamond: she was murdered? A local man reportedly bragged about knowing what happened to Paula. When questioned, he denied everything. He had no alibi. But there was no physical evidence, and the case against him collapsed. Another dead end. Small orange diamond: she ran away? Highly unlikely. Paula left behind all her belongings, her money, ID, even her favorite books. She told no one. Her family insisted she was happy. And even if she had fled, how had she disappeared so completely? Small orange diamond: something unnatural. This theory gained ground when people recalled that Paula vanished near Glastonbury Mountain, in an area now ominously nicknamed the Bennington Triangle, a region riddled with unexplained disappearances and strange phenomena. Over the decades, stories surfaced of eerie encounters. Hikers who felt they were being watched. Whispering voices with no source. Red eyes glowing in the woods. People vanishing, mid-step, from the trail. Local legend speaks of a shadow figure, half human, half beast, that stalks Glastonbury's slopes. Some say it lures travelers off the trail with mimicked voices or illusory lights. Others believe the mountain itself is cursed, a thin place where the veil between worlds wears thin. Some hikers swore they saw a girl in red, standing motionless among the trees at dusk, only to watch her fade away. The impact of Paula's disappearance went far beyond one family. Her father, once pragmatic and stern, became a recluse. He funded private searches for years, chasing rumors across the country. He even journeyed into the woods himself, sleeping under the pines, calling out his daughter's name. But the forest never answered. Bennington students grew uneasy. Faculty warned students not to hike alone. Locals became wary of the mountains. The woods weren't just dangerous, they felt wrong. And Paula? She became a legend. A face on a poster. A name in a file. A ghost in the trees. Here's where the story takes a chilling turn. Paula wasn't the first to vanish in the region. And she wouldn't be the last. 1945, Mitty Rivers, a 74-year-old guide, vanished on the very same trail while leading a hunting party. 1950, Paul Jepson, an 8-year-old boy, disappeared while his mother tended pigs. He was wearing a red jacket just like Paula. 1950, again Frida Langer vanished during a hike. She was the only one whose body was ever found months later, in an area that had already been thoroughly searched. The cause of death? Undetermined. None of these cases were solved. All occurred within a small radius. All involved sudden, complete disappearances. Many happened during the months of October to December. All left behind no clues. Coincidence? Or was there some presence in the forest? Skeptics point to rough terrain, poor weather, wild animals. But that doesn't explain the absence of remains. The suddenness. The eerie consistency. Paranormal researchers have theories. Portals to another dimension. Time slips. Earth energy fields disrupting space-time. Forest spirits, or cryptids. Paula's case has even been linked to missing 411 phenomena, cases of inexplicable vanishings in U.S. national parks. In nearly all of them, the pattern is the same: the missing person vanishes within moments, often within view of others, leaving no trace behind. And then there's the red coat. So many victims were wearing red. Is it a coincidence or a calling card? By 1950, the state officially closed Paula's case. Her family never stopped searching. Her name remains etched in college yearbooks, in campus archives, in whispers passed between generations of students. The trail where she vanished is still walked by hikers today, some unaware of what happened, some seeking it out. Sometimes, at twilight, hikers report a strange feeling near the bend where she was last seen. A sense of being watched. A sudden silence. A flash of red between the trees gone before you can look again. Maybe it's just imagination. Or maybe Paula never truly left. What do you think happened to Paula Welden? Was she just a young girl who got lost in the woods? Or did she walk into something no one was ever meant to find? Have you ever heard of the Bennington Triangle? Do you believe some places carry secrets that don't want to be found? Candle, let us know your theory in the comments. Speech balloon: maybe the final clue lies not in the woods but in your insight. Story 2, Silence in the Snow, the disappearance of Derrick Engebretson. I still remember the bone-chilling cold of that day, December 5, 1998. Oregon was wrapped in a pure white winter coat, snow falling thick and heavy, with wind whistling through the pine trees. The air carried the sharp, familiar scent of sap. The Engebretson family was carrying out their annual tradition, heading into the Winema National Forest to find the perfect Christmas tree. Derrick, an 8-year-old boy, full of life, a nature lover with a beaming smile, was skipping through the woods in his bright red jacket and striped woolen hat. He was like a ray of sunshine in a snow-covered forest. They said it would be a short trip, just a warm Sunday morning in the middle of a harsh winter. No one knew it would be the last time they ever saw Derrick. In the blink of an eye, while his parents weren't watching, he vanished into the endless sea of snow. The panic came like an undertow. His father started calling out for him through the forest, while his grandfather retraced their steps in the opposite direction. They followed the small footprints pressed into the snow, clear and unmistakable, leading deeper down a trail between two hills. And then they stopped, frozen. In the snow was the shape of a snow angel. A child had lain there, arms and legs spread out in playful joy. Derrick loved doing that every first snowfall. But here, no child. What terrified them wasn't the snow angel itself, but the silence. There were no more footprints. As if the boy had simply laid there, and was lifted straight up off the ground. Before they could even make sense of it, the gray sky darkened, and a snowstorm hit hard. Winds whipped their faces, ice spun in gusts, and within hours, every trace, every trail was erased. Derrick had vanished without a sound, without a cry for help. News spread quickly. Search and rescue teams were deployed. Scent dogs, helicopters, hundreds of volunteers, all flooded into the Winema forest. But with over 1 million acres of wilderness, the search was like looking for a needle in an icy haystack. On the third night, a makeshift shelter was found under an old tree. Branches had been woven together like a tiny hut. Someone had tried to cut them using a knife or sharp stone. It suggested Derrick was still alive, at least for a few hours after he went missing. But after that, nothing. No blood. No drag marks. No torn clothing or any belonging. I once spoke with a member of the rescue team. He said, "We searched every crevice, every hollow, every crack in the snow. It felt like something was hiding Derrick. Like the forest swallowed him whole." A week later, an unexpected witness came forward. He said that on the day Derrick went missing, he was cutting trees in the forest and saw from a distance a burly man struggling with a child. The child wore a red coat. But he thought it was just a father playing with his kid, so he didn't intervene. Another witness, a truck driver, reported seeing a black SUV parked suspiciously on the roadside a few miles from where Derrick disappeared. Inside the vehicle was a man smoking, wearing sunglasses in sub-zero winter. These clues shifted the investigation toward a possible abduction. Local criminal records were combed through. A few names surfaced, including a convicted child abductor who lived just 10 kilometers away. But then, nothing. No license plate. No surveillance footage. No third witness to confirm anything. Police once considered the possibility that Derrick simply got lost and didn't survive. But if that were the case, why wasn't his body ever found? No trace. No signs of struggle with the elements, no evidence of wild animal attacks. It's as if someone erased the boy from this world, in a way so clean it chills you to the bone. And then, the snow melted. Spring came. The volunteers left, quietly. But Derrick's family never gave up. His parents stayed in the area for weeks after the search teams had withdrawn. I once saw his father, sitting alone on a log by the forest's edge. His eyes were red and sunken, no longer able to cry like his tears had frozen with the snow. "I only turned away for a minute," he whispered. I just wanted to find a better tree for him. He liked them tall and full. I didn't think." He paused, looking out into the whiteness where once his son's laughter rang. Now there was only the wind's sharp howl. His hands trembled not from the cold, but from a guilt too deep to name. His mother was different, her grief etched into every movement. She didn't eat. She didn't sleep. Each morning, before the snow fully thawed, she'd walk back into the woods hoping, maybe today, she'd find something new. A scrap of fabric. A slide in the ice. Anything. "I thought I heard him calling in the wind," she told me. Derrick used to shout "Mom," whenever he found something cool. One day, I ran after a sound like that. But there was nothing. Just branches knocking together. I've watched them, year after year, suspended between hope and despair. Each Christmas, they still put up a tree, still hang a red stocking with Derrick's name, still leave an empty chair at the table. "If he comes back," his mother once said, "he'll know he was always waited for." Once, they were invited to speak on a television show to retell the story. The host asked, "What's been the hardest part all these years?" Derrick's father paused. Then answered, voice breaking, "It's not knowing where our son is. It's not knowing if he was in pain, if he was scared, if he knew we were looking for him every day. That helplessness, of not being able to protect your only child. It eats you from the inside." I once read in a psychology file, there are children who don't go missing. They're held somewhere, by someone, until no one searches anymore. But not every family gives up. The Engebretsons are proof of that. Years later, someone claimed to see a young man resembling Derrick at a gas station in Idaho. But when police arrived, he was gone. No camera. No lead. Just another spark of hope, smothered. I don't know what happened to Derrick. But I do know this. Silence is the most terrifying part of this story. The silence of the forest. Of the snow. Of secrets never revealed. But even more frightening is the silence inside the hearts of parents. When they no longer know if their child is alive or dead. If he's cold. If he's scared. If he called their name in his final moments. Studio microphone and you, what do you think? What really happened to Derrick Engebretson? Was he lost, frozen to death in the forest? Or taken quietly by a stranger in the snowstorm? Do you believe he's still alive? If so, why hasn't a single trace appeared in over 2 decades? Share your theory in the comments. A boy vanished in the snow-covered woods, leaving nothing behind. Was it just an accident? Or something much darker? Story 3, Darkness over the lake, the Lava Lake murders. In January 1924, 3 men, Edward Nichols, Roy Wilson, and Dewey Morris, lived in a cabin near Lava Lake, Oregon, working as fur trappers. Locals knew them as kind, hard-working men who lived peacefully and in harmony with one another. But no one could have imagined that their deaths would become one of the most chilling and mysterious cases ever heard of. These 3 weren't just professional trappers, they were admired for their simplicity and deep connection to nature. Lava Lake was an isolated, wild land, far from the chaos of modern life. They lived apart from society, untouched by modern distractions, and that's why, when tragedy struck, no one could have expected it. What was supposed to be a peaceful trapping trip turned into a haunting mystery no one has ever been able to fully explain. It all began just after the holidays. For several days, no one heard from the 3 men. This was extremely unusual since they regularly sent letters to family and friends. Concerned, a fellow trapper who lived nearby went to check on them. As he entered the cabin, a chilling stillness hung in the air. The space, usually lively, felt disturbingly quiet. Something was wrong. Food on the stove had burned black, a sign of someone leaving in a hurry. 3 plates still sat on the table, untouched. It was as if they had vanished in an instant. More disturbingly, in the corner of the cabin, a hammer covered in dried blood was found. The red stains along its handle stood out like a silent warning. While nothing could be proven immediately, it filled the visitor with a profound sense of dread. Outside the cabin, something else was strange. Footprints in the snow led away from the cabin, but disappeared just a few meters later. It was as if someone, or something, had wiped them away. Even worse, on the window next to the front door, a faint handprint was found. But it wasn't normal. It was long, slender, distorted, almost inhuman. Near the fireplace, the visitor found a journal, believed to be Roy's trapper log. The early pages were filled with notes, trap counts, animal types, weather records. But in the final pages, the handwriting became messy and erratic. One page read, "Something is watching us from the woods. It's not an animal." Another page read, "I saw it last night. It has no face." The final torn page contained only 2 blurry words. "Don't open." Police initially suspected an internal dispute, perhaps a fight between the men. But there were no signs of struggle, no attempts to flee or defend. It was as if whatever happened had taken them by surprise, or left them powerless to react. Even stranger, some of the animal traps set along the edge of the woods had been violently destroyed. Not by wildlife, but as if ripped apart by a powerful force. The wooden stakes shattered, wires torn, and some traps bore deep claw marks, larger than any known animal in the area. The night after the initial search team left, the friend who discovered the cabin claimed to have seen something, a shadow silently gliding across the frozen surface of lava lake under the full moon. It made no sound, left no tracks, just a misty form drifting through the moonlight. He immediately contacted authorities, and a wider search began. But the fear wasn't just about what was found, it was about the sense that something unseen was watching. In the days that followed, the search team scoured the area around Lava Lake. Although the territory wasn't vast, not finding a trace of the men baffled everyone. It was like they had vanished from the face of the earth. No footprints. No voices. Just haunting silence. On the fourth day, the team turned their attention to the lake. Cold winds stirred tiny waves beneath the frozen surface. They began cutting through the thick ice, and what they uncovered horrified them. Beneath the frozen sheet, the lifeless bodies of Edward, Roy, and Dewey lay motionless, eyes wide open, staring up at the sky. Their faces held expressions of terror, as if begging for help from a realm no one could reach. The autopsy revealed they had been shot and beaten brutally, but there were no signs of animal attack or natural disaster. This only deepened the mystery. Who killed them? And why was there not a single clue to lead to an explanation? One suspect was named but lacked evidence. The case faded into silence. But the darkness didn't leave. What happened at Lava Lake remained unsolved. As time passed, the Lava Lake murders became a distant memory. But no one ever truly forgot the eerie tales that surrounded the lake. Stories of dark figures beneath the ice, or strange sounds echoing from deep underwater, sent chills through locals. Some claimed that on windy nights, the ice made knocking sounds, as if something were trying to get out. Others said they saw shadows shifting under the frozen surface or heard soft moans from the lake's depths. On clear moonlit nights, the lake would sit still, but the strange noises would return. A few even said they felt unseen eyes watching them from under the icy surface. These weren't just tales, they were felt experiences, impossible to explain. The case remained unsolved, and Lava Lake became a place no one dared approach after dark. But the question still lingers: who killed those three men? And could their restless souls still be trapped beneath the ice, waiting to tell their story? Lava Lake, peaceful by day, becomes haunting by night. Tales of shadows under the ice, of tapping sounds from deep below, remain part of local legend. Years later, the lake sits quietly among the pine trees, but its reputation never faded. Locals call it Devil's Eye, because anyone who stands near the lake under a full moon feels watched by an invisible gaze. Sometimes, kids from nearby towns challenge each other to visit the lake at night. Some return trembling, unable to speak. Others flee at the first faint moan they hear. And a few never come back. Police call them accidents. Locals call them a lingering curse. And you, would you dare approach the lake on a pitch-black night? If you heard knocking beneath the ice, would you stop and listen, or run before it's too late? Story 4, The Vanishing Triangle, The Missing Girls of Ireland. My name is Aev, and this is a story I haven't dared to tell for over 20 years. Back then, I was just 19, living in a small village near the Kildare area, one of the three main points of what locals call the Vanishing Triangle of Ireland. The air always smelled of damp earth, forest wind, and a suffocating silence that cloaked the land each night. Since the late 80s, reports of missing young women began to spread. All of them were young, brown-haired just like me. They disappeared while walking or biking alone, often during foggy twilight hours. No one saw anything. No one heard a thing. No blood. No screams. No trace. We started calling the area the Vanishing Triangle. It sounded like something from a dark fairy tale. But it was real. I still remember Fiona Sinnott, 19 years old, brown hair, vanished after leaving a local pub. Then Annie McCarrick, also brown-haired, 26, who disappeared into the Wicklow forest like she'd evaporated. Their families hung posters, searched everywhere. The police got involved, dug up land, questioned witnesses, retraced every step. But the result? Nothing. Not a single clue. It was as if something was swallowing them whole in the wilderness. Every time someone vanished, it felt like the skies changed color. Thick dark clouds rolled in, and the wind screamed through the old trees like they were mourning. Villagers whispered about the invisible forest keepers, but nobody said it too loud, as if afraid it might summon them. Once, I nearly became the next victim. It was a Sunday evening. I was biking through Curragh Forest to visit a friend. The trail was muddy, tall grass reached my wheels, and the fog wrapped the ground in a white shroud. And then, I saw a man standing in the woods, facing away from me. He didn't move. Not a twitch. Just stood there. I tried to pass him, heart pounding. As I got close, he turned around. But there was no face. I'm not joking. Where his face should have been, there was only a dark, blank void, like the shape had been sucked away. I screamed and ran, leaving my bike behind. From behind me, I heard a raspy laugh echoing from deep inside his throat. But it wasn't human. It was like something that hadn't been human in a long time. I told the police. They thought I was in shock or hallucinating. But weeks later, a girl's body was found near where I saw that man. Her body was intact. No injuries. Just her eyes wide open, staring as if she had seen something so terrifying that her heart stopped from pure fear. Then, stranger clues started to emerge. A local man, Mr. Seamus, claimed that every full moon, he would hear someone calling his name from the woods. The voice echoed like dozens of women whispering in unison. At first, he thought he was losing his mind. But one night, he brought a recorder into the woods. The tape later terrified the entire village, the clear whispers of dozens of female voices. Find our bodies. Uncover the truth. He hasn't stopped. Another twist, and this is the part that's haunted me for years. A retired police officer admitted in a secret interview that they once detained a suspect, briefly a mentally unstable man who lived reclusively in the Wicklow woods. He had hundreds of journals written in tiny handwriting describing in detail how he cleansed the tainted souls. But then the man disappeared from the jail cell without a trace. The records went missing, and all information was completely silenced. Eventually, the cases faded from the news. But I could never forget. I still hear whispers when I pass the woods. Still see silent figures under the trees when night falls. And I know they are not at peace. Because the one responsible was never exposed. Maybe he's dead. Or maybe he was never really human to begin with. To this day, the Vanishing Triangle remains an open wound on Ireland's map. People still vanish. Every year, there are reports of young girls who go missing never to return. What do you think? Drop of blood? Was it an insanely clever serial killer who evaded every investigation? Drop of blood, or is there something else, something non-human draining the unguarded souls deep within Ireland's nature? Speech balloon. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Can you solve the mystery of the Vanishing Triangle? As for me, I wouldn't dare try again. Story 5, The Forest Phantom, The Disappearance of Kris, Kremers and Lisanne. Froon. Drop of blood. My name is Elise, a former tour guide who worked for years in the town of Bouquet, Panama. I never believed in ghosts or the supernatural, until the disappearance of Kris, Kremers and Lisanne Froon in 2014. They were two beautiful, energetic Dutch students who came to Panama with dreams of exploring nature and volunteering. The whole town remembers their bright smiles and passionate spirit. On April 1st, they left their guest house to hike the Sendero El Pianista, a famous trail leading into the rainforest, where misty mountains touched the sky. No one knew it would be the last time they were seen alive. I had guided many tourists along that path before. It's beautiful, but surreal, shrouded in mist, dense trees, and at times, it feels like you're being watched. But no one ever dares to say it out loud. That afternoon, the sky suddenly darkened. I remember it vividly because it felt unnatural, a sudden, unrelenting rainstorm, accompanied by thunder and lightning, like something was angry. And from that moment, everything turned strange. 3 days passed without a single call or message. Their families in the Netherlands panicked and contacted the embassy. Rescue teams, sniffer dogs, helicopters, all were deployed. Yet not a single trace was found. I joined a local search group. We crossed rivers, hiked deep into the jungle, calling their names for hours with no response. Sometimes, I thought I heard whispers in the trees. But whenever I turned, only swaying branches. That eerie feeling, that someone was standing just behind you, haunted me throughout the search. More than 2 months later, a local woman discovered a backpack lying by a small river. Inside, 2 phones, a camera, sunglasses, and 2 neatly folded bras, like someone had intentionally placed them there. No dirt. No decay. As if it had just been set down. The most chilling part was the call logs. Lisanne's iPhone showed 77 emergency calls to 112 and 911, starting just hours after they left the guest house. None of the calls connected. Weak signal, no reception, but they kept trying, every single day, until April 11th. After that, silence. Desperation was etched into every attempted call. One more thing, after April 6th, the iPhone began registering multiple incorrect PIN entries, as if the user forgot the passcode, or it wasn't Lisanne anymore. When experts examined the camera, they found over 90 photos taken in pitch darkness, all from the night of April 8th, a week after they vanished. No one could explain why. Some photos showed landslides, broken branches, strange objects covered with blue plastic, and one close-up of Kris's face, her eyes vacant, as if she was no longer conscious. Many shots were entirely black, not due to camera failure, but deliberate attempts to photograph something in complete darkness, using the last flickers of a flashlight. One image, initially overlooked, was digitally brightened. The result left the investigation team speechless, a shadowy figure standing deep in the forest, face unclear, but human-shaped, extremely tall, with arms hanging down to its knees. Why were they taking pictures in the dead of night? To find their way? To send a signal? Or to capture whatever was chasing them? After viewing all the photos, I felt a chill down my spine. It was as if the photographer knew they wouldn't survive, and wanted to leave a final record. Local people, well acquainted with the forest, refused to go deeper into the trail. They whispered about the spirit of the forest, an ancient entity that protects the land from intruders. Some believe that when thunder roars and the rain pours, it awakens. Then came the discovery of remains. But not intact. Only Kris's pelvic bone was found, and Lisanne's foot still inside her sneaker. A few other bone fragments were recovered. No bite marks. No blood. No fractures. Just bleached bones, as if they had been meticulously cleaned. DNA analysis revealed something even more disturbing. The bones showed signs of internal sunburn, as if they had been exposed to sunlight for days in areas with no sunlight access. Forensic experts called it impossible in nature. Later, a guide who had hiked the same trail that day confessed he had heard a scream echo from the forest at dusk. A scream, not quite human. But when he turned back, no one was there. One of the rescue workers resigned shortly after, without a word. During a drunken night, he muttered, I don't think they got lost. I think something led them away. Something not human. The case was officially closed in silence. Cause of death: accidental fall in rugged terrain. But hundreds of questions remain unanswered. Camera with flash: why were those desperate photos taken in the dark? Mobile phone: who kept entering the wrong pin after Kris was believed dead? Bone: why were there bones found miles apart, laid out almost deliberately? Round pushpin: and why did the backpack, clean and intact, drift right into plain sight like a sign? I once walked that same trail. I heard footsteps behind me. Soft laughter. And when I turned around, no one. One night, I dreamed of Kris and Lisanne standing at the forest entrance, waving at me, their smiles twisted. I woke up in shock, and the hotel door was wide open, though I was sure I'd locked it. I can't explain it. All I know is that something in that forest does not belong to this world. And if you ever visit Bokeh, Panama, never hike Sendero El Pianista alone. What do you believe? Drop of blood: was it a tragic accident? Or did an ancient entity claim what was never meant to be found? Speech balloon: leave your thoughts below. Because sometimes, hearing these stories can awaken what once slept. And our terrifying night comes to an end. Are you sweating yet? Did it feel like someone was watching you from the darkness? If tonight's stories gave you chills, don't forget to like this video, share the channel, and hit that subscribe button so you won't miss the next night even more chilling, more disturbing, and more haunting. Are you ready for tomorrow night? See you in the next video of Whispers in the Dark, where the unsolved mysteries still wait to be told. Sleep well, if you can.